I'm gonna press the record on the machine too, uh, because. Whew. All right. Uh, we are now live. That was a crappy way to kind of go live. Usually, you would have some, music going. It didn't happen like that. Yeah, it did not happen like that.
It's all good though.
Yes. Yes it is. So yeah, while we're at it, just tell everybody, um where you're from and what your name is, and if you have an education background and something, maybe you want to inform the audience of what that may be.
Sounds perfect. Well, my name is Lisa Sievers,
Hmm.
and I am first and foremost a Starseed, which you are too. I grew up in Arkansas and around all the beautiful crystals and diamond mines, and just loved growing up in the South, but also just around all the beauty and I think all the vibrations, right, of the planet being so prominent there in Arkansas. I have a degree in speech pathology, which I no longer use. And then I also have a second degree in counseling, which I use in my everyday work. I do intuitive readings and counseling. And I also mentor other spiritual people who want to get into the realm of doing readings or past life information, things like that. And most recently, I have studied starseed astrology, which is fascinating, which has kind of got me into what I'm doing now with a lot of reading natal charts and also reading starseed codes, which is just a super fun hour of learning your ancestral history to the stars.
Hmm. Okay. Would you like to would you like to tell the viewers or the audience a little bit about your ancestry and your starseed origins?
Oh,
Hmm.
absolutely. Well, I'm going to start when I was a little girl. And, don't you always know when you probably did this too when you were a small child? You just kind of felt like you were different. Did you feel like that?
Sometimes, my
Mhm.
parents definitely did.
Yeah, right. Well, I just always knew I was different. Like I would look in the mirror and I would think, you look different, you act different. And I don't know, I just felt like that I wasn't at home here. I felt like that the planet was very harsh and I felt like people were very mean. And I was a child that did not like loud noises. I liked being talked to in a very soft manner. So I knew I was different. I knew I wasn't, I won't say cut out for here, but I knew that this isn't where I was most comfortable. So, as I grew up, I started learning all about, the different galaxies and planets. Always been a huge astronomy fan and studied the stars and went and looked at, through telescopes and things like that. But it's interesting, probably when I was in my 30s, I was very drawn to anything with the Pleiades on it,
Hmm.
which is the seven sister star, cluster, which
Yes.
of course they're more than seven, but I was just always drawn to anything about the Pleiades or the seven sisters. And so interestingly enough, I had a starseed reading of my own a couple of years ago. And the lady told me, she said, "Oh my God, you're so Pleiadian." And I started laughing and I'm like, I know. And since that time, I've done a lot of my own research on the characteristics that I brought in from the Pleiades into this life. And it totally matches just pretty much everything I feel, everything I do. I feel like I'm put on this earth to help people and to uh, be a soft person, but knowing and realizing that soft doesn't mean wimpy or passive.
Hmm. Interesting.
So yeah, so I mean, I have other star systems as part of my ancestry, but the Pleiades is probably the most prominent and so one I resonate to the most. So most of us have at least one area of the galaxy or one
Mhm.
particular planet or star that they resonate to.
Okay. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. For the listeners on YouTube, just let me know. Let me know if you can hear anything.
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Yeah, I know I know you can.
Oh, okay. So you're talking to everybody out there in
Yeah,
live.
I'm
Okay.
talking to everyone else now. See, cause last time, see, I'm recording on the machine this time, but I want to make sure people can at least hear it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I am completely new to this. Yeah, so you mentioned something something about star seeds. Now, for people who don't know what that is, can you explain to everyone what a star seed is?
Sure. So, a lot of us, or most of us, reincarnate. You know, our souls have to grow and they have to evolve. And there are some people who strictly come to Earth, and that's where they learn their lessons.
Mm-hmm.
But star seeds are very, I don't know if what to say advanced, but they're souls who have had many, many lifetimes and they've had many experiences. And what star seeds are doing right now is they're coming to Earth and they are here to help us transition to the I guess you could call it the
Mm-hmm.
brave new world that's yet to come. So a starseed is just mainly an advanced soul who has had lifetimes in many places. They have tons of experience doing a multitude of things. And I mean, our souls are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. So people like you and me, for example, you know, we've been around, gosh, throughout time.
Mm-hmm.
And what we chose is to come in Dolores Cannon's book, she talks about the three waves of volunteers. And we're those waves of volunteers that are coming in to help the earth evolve. So we're holding space for everybody on this planet right now. We're holding space for the earth right now
Mm-hmm.
to heal and to raise its vibration. That's why we're here.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Can you um can you go into depth because we know that well me and you know that there may be kind of different there may be different types of star seeds and different
Mhm.
parts of the galaxy or different parts of the universe. Can you go a little bit in depth of the different types of star seeds that there is, or different types of star seeds that you've came across or experienced?
Yeah, so I mean, there are hundreds upon thousands. There's so I mean, there think about all the different galaxies and planets, right? Some in our or some in our galaxy and some that are not.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, I've studied Lyra. I've heard it pronounced Lyra. I've heard it pronounced Lyra. The beings from there are very, very, very old, very advanced.
Mm-hmm.
So I've studied that along with the Pleiades that we talked about a minute ago. Arcturus is another star that a lot of people on Earth, the star seeds, have a lot of Arcturian energy these days. Um, there are beings here from Andromeda, and there's the Andromeda constellation as well as the Andromeda galaxy. And there's Sirius. So we have
Mm-hmm.
Sirius A and Sirius B as well. So those are the primary places that I typically will resonate to people being from. But like I said, there are so many others, so many others.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. The serious one. The serious one was interesting for me. I believe that was uh the first one I learned about. But
Mm-hmm.
then what's interesting about the whole star seed situation uh with me was that that's actually how I got into learning about stars and
Oh, cool.
and the in the galaxy and stuff. So it started with because you know they're constellations. So in Orion star seed, you know, you look at
Right.
the Orion's belt, and then Andromeda, and then you look at the Andromeda constellation, and that's how you kind of you kind of get used to the stars, and
Right.
what I found interesting. There's actually a site that you can go to. Her name is Julia Belaz. I think that's what her name is, but she has a site to where you can actually type in your astronomical data. So your typical month, your
Hmm.
date, your year, and then you put your time, and then you put where you were born, and what it would
Hmm.
do, it would not only give you your astrological aspects, where the planets were during your birth. it
Right.
it will also give you your fixed star
Oh,
positions.
cool.
If you can, because people may not know what a fixed star is. Can you explain to the audience what a fixed star is, or what a fixed star chart is?
Well, actually, I don't do fixed star charts. The way that I
Mm-hmm.
work is I look at a natal chart. And so
Mm-hmm.
you might be using a term that I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do is I look at the natal chart. So I get
Mm-hmm.
all the information that you just talked about. And then I have a book of codes and numbers that will mark itself. For example, I'm a Pleiadian. I have 25-degree sun in Virgo in the sixth house. So that
Mm-hmm.
automatically it assigns me to the Pleiadian star group. So that, I guess, if that's what you mean by fixed star, that totally puts me as a Pleiadian. So is that kind of what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So basic. Well, I was using another term, but what you would do is you would read the orb
Okay.
next to your sign. So what an orb is, for people who have even looked at an astrological chart. So what it is, you'll have your planet, whatever zodiac sign your planet is in, and then you'll just have a degree.
Yes. Hmm.
And based upon where that degree is, that would show you where that particular star is.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay. So
so
you're
it's
talking about in the middle of the chart, right? In the very middle of it, where they're connecting everything.
yeah, no, not the oppositions and the squares and all that. I'm talking about the degree. So
Okay.
it would say Mars in Gemini in the 29th degree.
Perfect. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep.
So we probably call it something different,
Something different. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's essentially the same. It's essentially the same thing. I kind of want to get into the whole astrological aspect of it now. I think people when they think of astrology, they think of,
Hmm.
the sun sign, the Taurus and the Cancer,
Hmm.
and that.
Hmm.
Maybe if someone is a little bit more deeper into it, like the farthest I've seen somebody go was their moon sign, their sun sign, and ascendant,
Hmm.
and that was it. It was nothing
Right.
else. It was nothing else to it. Can you can you go into detail with other aspects of astrology, um, that people may want to look at, to kind of get a better understanding of maybe some karma they had, or a little bit more in depth on how they react, their personality. Can you go into
Mhm.
depth a little bit about that?
Yes, that's a great question. So, and again, I am not a normal, if there is such a thing as a normal astrologer, but the way that I like to do readings is to look at the trifecta, which are the moon sign and the sun sign and the rising sign. So that's your trifecta, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at the planets associated with those. But I think the most important thing, or one of the most important things in a chart, is called the North Node. And so you have a north node and you have a south node. So, as an example, a my north node is in Leo, And what that means for me is I'm supposed to, in this lifetime, bring in Leo aspects and characteristics that I have never been able to do in past lives. So my North Node is my mission. It's what I'm supposed to do in this lifetime that I have never been able to do before. So, what is Leo? Leo wants to be on stage. Leo wants to entertain. It wants to advise. It
Mhm.
wants to be in charge. It wants to teach. It wants to be sunny and generous and happy and optimistic. But it's very much an in charge energy. So, what does that say about my past lives? Possibly that I've always taken a back seat and let other people either walk ahead of me, or I haven't been as determined and headstrong, maybe in those lifetimes. So, in this lifetime, what I'm
Mhm.
supposed to do is act, do it quickly, and be okay with being a star, basically. And it doesn't mean I'm a star, but it means that I have to shine my light and let people know what I'm up to. So, everybody in life, your South Node is what you bring in. You
Mhm.
already have done it. Your North Node is what you have to do. So, that's the most
Mhm.
important thing. I really like, there's a lady named Karen, and it's Karan,
Mhm.
and her middle initial is M, and her last name is Black.
Mhm.
I want to say she it lives in Canada, but she's got a great website of tons and tons of information on South and North nodes. It explains everything, and then she goes into all the different the 12 different signs if you bring that in. So I love her work. She gets into these are the colors this person should wear. This is
Mhm.
their mantra. And then she goes into detail about past lives, what you bring in with the past life,
Mhm.
and then what you're here to, again, just do based on those past lives. So, in a way, yeah, you're balancing karma. So, you're coming in
Mhm.
and you're choosing a different path this time because it's one that maybe you haven't done or haven't balanced.
Okay. Somebody asked me. So, how can your parents tell uh if their child is a star seed, or if
Ooh.
somebody may be curious that they themselves may be a star seed? How can they assess that, or tell that they're a star seed?
Well, there are great people out there doing the
Mhm.
work. You can watch videos online that are free. You don't have to pay a lot of money.
Mhm.
But some people do will use people like me to actually do their whole chart and to go through it with them. But for the newbie, I would say get on YouTube or get on and listen to different people talk about the different types of star seeds, where they come from, and then characteristics. And so, usually, when people start hearing, okay, Lisa, you're Pleiadian. You are this person who loves doing for others. You have a very soft spirit. You are probably tall and thin. You probably have long fingers. You probably have a 25-degree mark in your chart.
Mhm.
You might be a healer of some type. So there are tons and tons and tons of people and just information out there on the different star seeds. So I would say get online, do some reading, and kind of ask yourself, do I fit any of these characteristics? So that would be a first thing I would do.
Mhm.
If you want to dive in deeper, then I think follow somebody on YouTube or
Mhm.
find somebody that would actually do a reading for you so you can really, dig a little bit and
Mhm.
find out more. You did ask about children.
Mhm.
Most of the time, I would say parents know their child is either a star seed, an indigo, or has something special or unique about them.
Mhm.
Most people will say, I just can't put my finger on it, but they're unique, they're different,
Mhm.
and they just kind of have this feeling, or they know. Two of my grandkids are very strong star seeds, and you can just tell by looking at them. There's something in their eyes. There's
Mhm.
uh, there's there's just a feeling you get when you look at them.
Hmm.
So I mean, I know, and of course I've done their charts too, right? But as just an average person, people are very drawn to these children. So if you have a
Hmm.
little child and especially the blue-eyed children, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
people will come up in public and ask about my granddaughter and
Hmm.
say, "Wow, she's so beautiful. She's so unique." It just they carry an energy and people know they're different.
Hmm. Interesting.
Have you ever seen a child like that? Have you ever seen a child you were just so drawn to and you're
Oh
like,
man.
"Wow."
Let me think. A child I was drawn to. Um, mm,
Or they just seem wiser than their years. Like I have a 2-year-old granddaughter and I mean, this little child can have a in-depth conversation with you.
hmm.
She uses large words. She knows things. You can ask her questions about things that she doesn't know about, but she does know about, if that makes
Man.
sense. Um, and the most fun thing about little ones, 2, 3-year-olds,
Mm-hmm.
you can ask a child, "Where did you live before you lived with me?"
Hmm.
And they'll tell you. My own son told me he lived in the stars when he was 3 years old.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Hmm.
I'm still thinking about the question you asked me about have you ever seen a child that's just so interesting. Mm, ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna just be honest, be honest with everybody. I haven't really seen
Hmm.
or experienced it with a child yet. I'm pretty sure they're out there, but I didn't really get that feeling yet.
Okay.
Um, with other with other people, like maybe above the age of 18 or something like that, or
Hmm.
someone who's older than me. Yeah. Um, I've hung around some people who I said, yeah, this guy's a bit, you know, he's different. Uh,
Hmm. Absolutely.
but I haven't really seen it. I haven't really seen it with the children, yet. It's kind of funny because there's supposed to be a an influx of these children,
Hmm.
coming in. Uh,
Yes.
so so maybe in my environment, I haven't experienced it yet, but I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure other people have definitely uh, experienced it for sure, for sure.
Absolutely.
N-
Absolutely. And yes, there are tons and tons.
yeah.
So, earlier I talked about the 3 waves of volunteers, and the first wave of volunteers that were sent here, who were star seeds,
Hmm.
to help the earth through this whole evolution process,
Hmm.
were born in the 60s, like I was. And then a couple of years later, maybe 20, 25 years later,
Hmm.
the people born in the 1985 section of time, around in there. And so then, I mean, add another 25 years, add another 20 years, and that the volunteers keep coming in because,
Hmm.
pretty soon my population, the baby boomers, won't be here. That we may only be here 20 more years, but we need these volunteers coming in every 20 or so years
Hmm.
to keep the vibration here high and to again
Yes.
just help Earth evolve.
Yes. Yes. That's what it's all about. That's definitely what it's all about. I want to get back to the uh to the astrology chart, to the astrology aspect of things, because people would probably be more interested in that. So when we talk about the personalities of the of the zodiac, um, can you go over like, say for instance, we were talking about star seeds, right?
Mhm, mhm,
So say for instance, you looked at someone's chart and then it's a whole bunch of fire in their chart. So you have a
mhm,
whole bunch of Aries or a whole bunch of
mhm,
Leo or a whole bunch of of Sagittarius. Yeah, those
Right.
are the three. Those are the three fire signs. Can you can you explain, maybe somebody doesn't have, their birth date, or they just want to, figure out for themselves, maybe if they can find out which sign would be associated with what star seed, or in your experience, which signs
Mm.
tend to fall into like the Pleiadians or Andromedans or Orion,
Oh, that's
Capel.
a You know what? I've never charted that. That's a really interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
I've never sat back and looked at all the star charts I've done in the past couple of years and made that kind of connection. But just
Mm-hmm.
off the cuff, I think Virgos tend to be the helpers of the zodiac. So a lot of our Virgos probably carry a lot of Pleiadian energies. They're very service oriented,
Mm-hmm.
and they are very much helpers. That's why they're here. They love being of use and having a purpose. So I would say a lot of Virgos probably carry that energy. Um, Gosh, let me think what else. As far as people that came from Lyra or Lyra,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my friends are Leos. And they
Mm-hmm.
were the lion people. So they were full of fire, full of that feline energy. So I would say our Leos probably would have some kind of connection to Lyra or Lyra.
Mm-hmm.
Our Syrians are our fun galaxy. So Sirius
Mm-hmm.
A, I mean, I always think of dolphin energy and mer energy and lots of water energy. So I might think a Pisces might fit into that realm. It's very fantasy driven.
Mm-hmm.
And our Piscean people are very much our dreamers, right? So that might, and again, I don't have anything to back that up. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just kind of shooting off the cuff here. As far as people who serve humanity
Mm-hmm.
in a bigger ways, to me, that's an Aquarian energy. It's very airy energy,
Mm-hmm.
so that would very much go to our star of Arcturus. So does that kind of give you a little bit of info?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. For anybody who would be interested in that type of thing, and making the connections mesh together.
But see,
Uh,
now I want to go look at all the readings I've done and look at that. So thank you.
oh man, yeah,
That's
that.
going to bother me. I'm going to have to dig everybody out tonight. I have them all saved and go
Mm-hmm.
back through and look. But basically, what I do is I look at the degree
Mm-hmm.
in the house, and then I kind of do my own little diagram
Mm-hmm.
of. Typically, you will have, of course, 12 houses, right? We know
Yes.
that,
Mm-hmm.
but and there's 10 star markings that can show up or more really. But when I do a chart, what I'm looking at is how many star markings does this person have.
Mm-hmm.
So an example might be an average person might have 6 or 7, but a lot of people will end up having 9, 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the people that are really stacked in that area. Um, Most people aren't going to ask for a starseed reading
Mm-hmm.
if they don't feel like they're from the stars. But could
Mm-hmm.
I look up some random person's birthday and they have no starseed markings at all? That's a possibility. So it just basically means all their incarnations have been here on the earth. So you would be talking about a very much a beginner soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most people that come to me are going to have at least 6 or 7 star markings at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, and for those who may be listening, it sounds like, because I know it kind of sounds like, well, if I don't have any star seed markings in my chart, I'm not special. No, no,
Right.
that's not what that means. That's not what that means at all. That just probably means you probably you probably either spent the majority of your time
Mm-hmm.
here during this during in this particular linear space part of time, or you
Mm-hmm.
you probably are, just a new soul, and you probably were put here, on earth. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not special in any way, regardless of what zodiac sign you have, regardless of what star
Right.
seed marking you have. That doesn't mean you're not special at all. Everyone is unique, and everyone is unique
Mhm.
in their own right. We don't want you to feel that if you go and seek out that you are a star seed, and then you're coming across people and they can't find anything in your chart, don't get discouraged.
Mhm.
You you
Absolutely.
control, your own destiny. So you have you have you're special in your own rights. um you mentioned something about houses in astrology. Can you
Mhm.
explain to the audience what a house in astrology is?
Sure. So,
Mm-hmm.
the first house starts. I guess the best way, and of course you can't see me, but if you can imagine a circle, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to turn that circle into a pie with 12 pieces. Okay. So we're going to cut the pie in half horizontally, and then we're
Mm-hmm.
going to cut it vertically and create 12 pieces. The very first house is going to be the house where your rising sign starts. So, for example, my rising sign is Aries. So, my first house is going to start right there on that 9 o'clock point of the clock,
Mm-hmm.
with my first house being there. Now, everybody's going to be different because your degrees are going to be different and your rising sign is going to be different. So, where your rising sign might be Scorpio,
Mm-hmm.
so in your first house, it's going to start in the Scorpio energy, whereas mine's going to start in the Aries.
Mm-hmm.
But each house, what we do is we look at the planets that are stacked in each of those houses or pie slices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we look at the planet that's there. We look at how is that planet mix and mingle, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
with the energy of, let's
Mm-hmm.
say, the Aries first house that I have. And we look at which houses are empty and which houses have degrees and planets in them. So it's much easier if you can see a chart. And I know that the viewers can't do that, or the listeners can't do that. But for example, everybody has houses in their little pie chart that are empty. It means there's no
Mm-hmm.
planets in the house. So it's a whole empty pie, slice of pie. So, for an example, my first house in Aries, I don't have any planets in it. So that house is
Mm.
empty.
That's
The
funny.
first house, the first house though, is all about our self-identity and who we come in to
Mm.
be, and gaining this clear understanding of ourselves and our lives and what we're yet to be. So whenever you have an empty house, that's
Mm.
not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because an empty house means I've done a lot of work on that area
Mm-hmm.
in my past, in past lifetimes. And the majority of my work is going to be in the houses that have the most planets in them.
Mm. Okay, so
So,
kind of
for
like.
example, well, one of my sons, well, both of my sons, because they're twins,
Mm-hmm.
have 5 planets stacked in their second house.
Mm. House
And
of
that second
material
house,
things.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So, all about material things.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's where they're going to be doing the most work. One of my sons is very much a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
He has already said, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 40. He's very driven in that area. So that's what he's here to do in this lifetime. It's why he picked the father he picked. His father was very much the same. He needed that example. So he picked his father based on knowing when he was coming in and knowing what this lifetime's work would be for him.
Mm.
So whenever you have 3 or more planets stacked in a house, that really gives you that push toward, I have to majorly work on this area. So if you have 3 or more houses in any house, it's called a stellium. And so that's where the majority of your work, you'll be doing the work in that house with that planetary energy in this lifetime.
Mm.
Are
Interesting.
you familiar with your chart? Like, do you have a stellium that you're aware of?
Yes, I do. I have a stellium in my first house,
Okay.
and I have a stellium. It's weird. It's weird with my chart because the planets. So what they'll do it. So. So what would happen is the planet would be in the sixth house, but it's like it's very close to the seventh house, so I can
Okay.
kind of see. But the planets are close enough to where you can tell that there's a stellium. But I do have a stellium in my first house,
Hmm.
and I believe I have one in my sixth house.
Okay. Okay.
I would,
So, the first house
yeah.
energy, that is you creating the person that you want to be, right?
Mm-hmm,
So you're going to really fine tune in this lifetime. What do I want to do? Who do I need to become? How do I work through any identity issues?
mm-hmm,
And again, it doesn't mean that you're going to have issues. Like my son, it can just mean that I am nose to the grindstone, second house of possessions. I'm going to make money. I'm going to make sure
mm-hmm,
that in this lifetime, I don't want or lack for anything.
mm-hmm. That's so interesting. It was fun. You mentioned how your how you had Aries Aries in your first house
Hmm.
fire sign. That was so fun because I have because my first house is in Sagittarius
Okay.
in the fire sign. So I thought that was
Yeah, and
good.
you know what? I think that, just I don't have your chart in front of me, and clearly I've looked at it before, but
Mm-hmm.
with the Sag being right there, coming in with that energy, I think in a lot of your past lives, maybe that you weren't able to do the things that you wanted to do. Maybe you didn't get to travel. Maybe you didn't get to, get those higher degrees or
Mm-hmm.
sit around philosophers or things like that. So I think in this life, you are so open minded.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your chart says. I want to be open minded. I want to explore. I want to figure it all out. I want to pioneer. And I need to know about myself so I can teach others. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I would read that first house for you. So, and
Mm-hmm.
you already have the pull. I mean, you are young, and look at you. You have the pull toward. I'm figuring out who I am, and now that I know who I am, I'm gonna keep. I'm just gonna keep going.
Interesting. Interesting. You said you mentioned earlier about energies mixing and meshing together.
Mhm.
So that's where we kind of I want to segue into squares, trines, sextiles, and oppositions because those will those have an impact of how the energies of your in your chart and your planets flow. Can you explain to the audience what a trine is, sextile, square, and the opposition is?
Okay, so I am not an expert in that at all, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
not even going to try to do that. Um, Generally, those kind of things I don't look at when I look at a natal chart.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that a professional, and I'm not a professional astrologer. I'm a starseed astrologer. Those are
Okay.
the things that a professional astrologer would look at,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they were going to do maybe a solar return for you,
Mm-hmm.
which it would be like, what's the energy like during this birth year for me,
Mm-hmm.
like right now in time. And what they're going to do is look at the trines and the sextiles and the
Mm-hmm.
oppositions, and that way they can tell you exactly, they can pinpoint a month that maybe something might happen, a month that might be a little more erratic than others, or
Mm-hmm.
a really easy peasy period of time. But I'm no expert on that, so I'm not going to even attempt to give you
Mm-hmm.
information that could be wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's actually one of the things I like about you and what gravitated me towards you was that you're willing to say that you don't know.
Mhm.
Um, there was actually it was a we were so I was back at home with me and my mom and my family, and we were watching this reality TV show, and there was an
Mhm.
episode where this lady she went to a psychic to go get a psychic reading, and the lady was asking the psychic questions, and it seemed like she had an answer for everything. And and for some people may take it with a grain of salt, but this lady actually went on ahead and did what the psychic said, and
Mhm.
it didn't work out. So
Mhm.
one of the things to decipher if something is real or if it isn't, if that person has an answer, for everything, that may be, a red flag, because nobody knows everything. So, you know,
You know what?
yeah.
I just got certified as a master numerologist.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really fascinating about looking at somebody's charts with their numbers, and it goes in so much depth.
Mm-hmm.
It's so intricate. But it's so interesting to look at periods of time when you do numerology,
Mm-hmm.
because there's always a number you're going to vibrate to, and then there's going to be a challenge in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then depending on your personal chart, like I have zero challenges my whole life, which most people don't, which again notified me that I was a star seed, because people with all zeros
Mm-hmm.
come in, we don't have a major challenge that we have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
What we're here to do is to help people ascend. So
Mm-hmm.
we've already been through a lot of challenges. Isn't that interesting? So
Mm-hmm.
we don't have one thing or another. Now, get to, please know that it doesn't mean I haven't had challenges. I have,
Mm-hmm.
but it just means that none were assigned to me.
Mm-hmm.
But on a free will basis, I did pull those in. We all come in with free will. And
Mm-hmm.
so, please, 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 people that are listening, if you go to a psychic, again, take what resonates to you.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to take on what somebody else is projecting at you.
Yes.
So please, please, please know that. I do psychic readings every day for people.
Mm-hmm.
And bottom line, it's people's choices what to do with the
Mm-hmm.
information that they get. And I make that really clear. I'm not here to make your decisions for you. I'm here to use as a sounding board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to tell you that this situation probably was predestined, and that the reason you pulled it in was because you were supposed to. But there are some people, I did a reading this morning for a girl, and I told her, I said, you're like me, you have a lot of zeros in your chart. And zeros in your chart means you have a heck of a lot of free will energy to make your own choices. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a big difference there. But yeah, take from a reading, any reading,
Mm-hmm.
the things that resonate, use it. But don't let anybody give you an answer. It's kind of
Yes.
like going to church on Sunday and letting the preacher tell you this is the way it is without questioning it.
Absolutely.
And I'm a big believer, question everything, right?
Yeah.
Aren't
Yeah.
we here to question? We're here
Yeah.
to dig and figure out and question and change our minds. I mean, I didn't believe in reincarnation when I was 7. I probably didn't
Mm-hmm.
believe in that till I was close to 30. So we're constantly growing, learning, and
Mm-hmm.
evolving. And I think the most important thing is just keep that open mind. And if you want to use people like us, we love it. We love guiding and helping people,
Mm-hmm.
but it's up to your discretion what
Yeah.
you do with any information.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's kind of a theme, that we're living, the environment, that we're kind of living in, today, especially with how much information, you know
Mm-hmm.
that we have access to. um Tony talked a little bit about it in my previous podcast, about, you know people, wanting to, know the truth, and, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
just figuring out things, for themselves, as opposed to, just letting somebody
Yes.
tell them something, and then they take it, but then they don't go out for themselves and find out for themselves. And, sometimes it can be an intuition thing. Sometimes you can say, this guy or this woman, she said something to me, and and it really resonated with me. Like I
Right.
really feel a strong connection. And then there will be other times, well, I'm not really feeling too good about
Mhm.
this. I'm maybe not sure. I got a lot of questions,
Mhm.
about that. And I think that humans, uh, we're not designed to be fixed or stagnant.
Yeah.
We were designed, to just keep learning and keep creating and keep evolving, and that requires you, to keep asking questions. So
Yes.
what we were talking about star seeds, that's a gate, and even just astrology in general, the the curiosity, for well, the interest is there,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
it's up to you, to take it deeper. Because if you really think about it, what is a zodiac sign? A zodiac sign is those are those are those are signs that you can see, in the sky, and then the
Mhm.
stars, and then that will go into star systems and galaxies and star clusters, and then
Mhm.
you get into space, and then that's how you get into, with star seeds. And then that'll open a whole nother can of worms, because then
Right.
you're going to want to know, well, what is a star seed? Then Pleiadian, what is
Mhm.
a Pleiadian? What is a Lyran? Then you go into the Lyran roars, and then we start talking
Right.
about Alpha, Dracos, and then all of a sudden you open a whole nother can of worms about
And alarms, exactly.
aliens,
Exactly.
and other life forms, and other
Mhm.
technologies and stuff. Like, it's really no end to it.
There's no end to it.
Mm-mm.
It's so vast, absolutely.
It is.
And most people, like when I do readings for people, I'll ask them. I'm like, you know what? What do you think your biggest goal on Earth is? And they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what we're all supposed to do in this life is to become the best version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because in each life, we come in to learn more and more and more, and we add more and more and more. So, how do you become the best version of you?
Mm-hmm.
Through asking questions, through self study, through meditation, through conversing with different kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be boring if you hung out with people all your age and didn't have friends my age? Wouldn't that be boring?
Oh man,
You know?
you just brought up something, in my childhood. So I spent a lot of my time with my grandma. So I'm in my single digits, and I'm spending time with 50,
Mhm.
60, 70 year olds. And we got along just fine.
Absolutely.
I love talking. It's weird. I love talking to older people more than I do younger people. I find that very interesting, people my age. But yeah, like you were saying, with everybody, it wouldn't be fun, if everybody, was the
Yeah,
same. You want everybody to
absolutely.
be different, because we can learn from each other, and we can experience from each other. So, um, I think that's great.
Well, and what's fascinating about astrology too, since I
Hmm.
have twins, and so many people will ask me about, okay, so you've got twins, you've got triplets. So basically, twins and triplets normally are not that far apart, right? They
Hmm.
might be 3 minutes apart or five. But what's really interesting there is that they still can have houses in um, or planets in different houses. And also, they can be born under different rising signs because the rising signs change.
Hmm.
So, my son Carter has the rising sign Scorpio. His brother Blake, born 4 minutes later, is a Sagittarian rising. That
Hmm.
totally splits the chart.
Hmm.
The other thing is you're looking at the just the vast whole picture here. You're looking at human design. You're looking at numerology. You're looking at the name that child was given at birth.
Hmm.
And then you're looking at, I love looking at double and triple digit numbers in a chart. For example, I think you had some repeating numbers in your chart,
Mm-hmm.
and that really puts in your face the things you need to work on. Um, I know in my chart, I've got some 27s and I've got 18s. And 18 is called the shadow number. And that's the number that that person has to dig within, pull out any shadows, anything that's bothering them, and be able to talk through it and talk about it and not keep it repressed, because the 18 has tendencies toward depression. So
Mm.
it's so interesting to look just throughout the chart at those kind of energies. Is there double numbers there? What does that mean for that person? But everything we're here to learn about ourselves, we have access to. The more we talk to people, the more information that we can get our hands on, and the more we can question. And I think, don't believe everything you hear.
Yeah.
Even people listening to us right now,
Mm-hmm.
fact check us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just say, I don't like what she said. That's just, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work for me, and that's okay too.
Yes.
And that's why we're here. That is our evolution, to
Mm-hmm.
become the best versions of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
through self discovery.
Yeah, yeah. Then yeah, once again, Tony said that. Tony said that last podcast. Hey, don't just take it from me. Go
Right.
out and you know figure out.
Yeah.
Figure out for yourself. That's
Yeah.
that's really important. I have um I have a question for people who may. So we mentioned
Mhm,
numerology and astrology.
mhm, mhm.
Can you differentiate the difference between numerology or and astrology, or are they kind of intertwined or mixed in together?
Well, I think they go hand in hand with just giving us information about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we looked at an astrology natal horoscope, which is just the blueprint of when you were born,
Mm-hmm.
and then we transfer the energy and look at, let's say, like, what is your full name?
Noel Chayton Green.
Okay. So, if I was going to do a chart for you, I would take your whole name,
Mm-hmm.
the name that is on your birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Each letter is assigned a number. For example, the letter A is a number one, the
Mm-hmm.
letter B is a number two, and so on. And I would add all those numbers up in your birth name on your certificate.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to give me your life learning lesson. That is why you're here. That is what you're here to discover about yourself and learn about yourself and overcome if there are obstacles in that area. So, it probably, if I did that chart for you, we probably could look at that and say, oh, Noel is I'm just going to throw out a number, a 15-6. And karmically, it means this in numerology. Now let's look back at his astrology chart and see where his north node is. What did he
Mm-hmm.
bring into this life that he has to do? So those two things could very well correlate. And again, it's just like adding more information to your self discovery. This is me. This is who I
Mm-hmm.
am. I came in with this. Came in with this. The cool thing about numerology, though, it's kind of like looking at um, a yearly return. Let's say you were doing a solar return for the year in astrology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Basically, what you'd be doing there is looking at the energies of the next 12 months and how they're going to affect you based on the placement. So, in numerology, there are 4 periods of time that we look at that are really important. And depending on whatever your life learning lesson is, for example, I'm a 27/9. So my karma gives me the first section of my life, Pinnacle 1. It gives me all the way up to 32, 33 years. So I spend a lot of time my first 32 years living in a 9 vibration. So
Mm-hmm.
I would compute all these things, right, for your chart and then share them
Mm-hmm.
with you. But that has a very specific meaning. During this period of time, this is what you should expect in your life. My second pinnacle, usually that's a work pinnacle. It's when most of us are getting married and raising children, or really focusing on a career. So during that period of time, your 20s and 30s,
Mm-hmm.
here is your number and here's your challenge number. This is what you're up against. So instead of looking at it year to year, it's going to put time in periods of years called pinnacles. So in our lives, we have four pinnacles in numerology.
Hmm. Yep.
So it's fascinating. Again, I just will totally believe that every way that we try to tap into our own energies and discover and figure out who we are, the better. So all these things just go so in tandem with each other.
Hmm.
And if
Interesting.
you've never had it's called human design. I am not an expert at all.
Hmm.
I've had one done. They're pretty interesting too, to look at your whole, it's basically your whole blueprint. Lots of numbers involved
Mm.
and basically a 2 to 3 hour conversation with your coach.
Where would somebody go to get that? Because you said you got one. So where
Mhm.
where would you go for that? Or if you can't say in the chat, or you think it may get lost, you can always text me and I can
Mhm.
just put it in the video, link
Absolutely.
video.
So I just started digging the other day. I did a girl's astrology chart and we
Mm-hmm.
were talking about human design and she's like, wow, I feel like you've opened a can of worms here and now I want
Mm-hmm.
to know more. And so I've been doing some research on that. So I can get you up some people's names and
Mm-hmm.
contact info and you can add it to your page.
Yeah. The human design, I mean, the human design in itself, like you said, it was a can of worms. It's kind of it's kind of interesting because I was reading a book. It was called UFO UFO Highway. I forgot the name of the author. But
Mhm.
in the beginning, I may just do a podcast on it because it was really interesting. But the general was talking about Dulce, and in a nutshell, uh, they found they found grays that were living there, and they left behind these tablets, and it was like millions
Mhm.
of years, that they recorded, their history and space and the stars and all that stuff, and it talked about a progenitor race uh,
Mhm.
that that basically came to our solar system. They first were on Mars, but then something drastic. He didn't say what happened, but something did happen. So that's when they decided to move to Earth, and they could not take the climate on Earth. So what they did was they created a race that was able to do so in order to keep the lineage going. And then they also created a gray race, but the gray race didn't come from our gene pool. But I'll probably discuss that. But in a nutshell, that's when uh, that's when the group of beings, they were called the Anu. Uh,
Mhm.
what they did was they they created a slave race, which then became our race, the human race. And with our race and with our race in particular, uh, we're able to take Earth, and in order for the Anu to survive, they needed to breed, with us, to continue and keep on living. So I mean, you go into the genetic makeup of humans. I mean, that would open up, even more can of worms, because somebody who may be into religion, they
Mhm.
may be interested in that, because in religion, what's it called? It's called, I think they're called creation stories,
Mhm.
where basically they talk about how creation is formed, uh,
Mhm.
and that gets you going on, where do humans come from,
Uh-huh.
how
Come
how
from.
did
Yep.
how did humans come to be, and then you get into then you start asking questions with who exactly, is the God, who is the creator
Yeah.
of us, and the history. So, once again, it doesn't stop. It just opens
Mhm.
more stuff.
Yep. Well, just an infinite amount.
Mm-hmm.
I always say to the newbies that come to me and want to know a little bit more, I love Brian Weiss. I love his books. He was on Oprah for many years. I know he was educated at some very prestigious university, maybe Harvard or Princeton. I'm not sure. But his book, Many Lives, Many Masters, is just a primer for past life information, reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big fan also of Dr. Michael Newton, who wrote Journey of Souls and his second book, Destiny of Souls. Those are amazing books that at least would give,
Mm-hmm.
folks a peek into all where, the questions that start answering and at least make people think about why do we pick the parents we pick? Well, first of all, do they believe in reincarnation? If
Mm-hmm.
they don't, that's certainly okay too. But
Yeah.
if you're a spirit trying to figure out what do I need to do in my next life, where am I ranking in my soul's evolution,
Mm-hmm.
and how many lessons do I have to come in and learn next time to really evolve and grow? Those are great books to really dig a little bit. And then from there,
Mm-hmm.
you're just going to want to read more and more and more, which is why people like you and me have a million books and have gone to a million classes and have done our own research. And it just keeps on going and going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has been a pleasure to have you on here, and yeah, we should definitely do this again. Um, I hope the people listening got a little bit of a better understanding of astrology and star seeds, and how that may work, and we went into depth a little bit, about it. So um really great having you. Do you
Uh,
have any ending remarks that you want to make before you leave?
Challenge yourself to, again, be the best person that you can be. Use every God given skill and gift that you came in with, embellish it, live it, create. I think create is such an important word. I think a lot of us just live. We live paycheck to paycheck. And we're satisfied with the status quo. But I want to tell everybody out there to dig, to look for depth in things, to really create. And you can create the life you want. I'm a big believer in you
Mm-hmm.
can manifest the life that you want. Go after it.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Um, thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening. This is the Noel Greene Live podcast. Make sure that you guys tune in for next week. We're gonna have Elena Denon on next week. So make sure you guys tune in for that. That will be on Tuesday. And once again, give it up for Lisa Sievers.
Severs, uh-huh.
Sievers, uh,
Mhm.
Lisa Sievers. I will make sure to put her contact information in the description, so that way you guys may want to read into her, or you may want to look into her services. And she's a phenomenal person to get to know. Once you pretty much get a service, it's the bond. It's a connection that you have forever. So I'll make sure I'll put that in the description box. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time.